The cobbled streets of Rome glistened with a haunting glow beneath the flickering street lamps as Sarah Miller stepped out of the taxi. She had left behind the familiar landscapes of her small American town to answer a call that echoed from the ancient corridors of the Vatican. The chill of the night air wrapped around her, sending shivers down her spine, and she clutched the edges of her suitcase with uncertainty. Assigned to serve the church in Rome, Sarah's excitement was tempered by an underlying sense of foreboding. The colossal St. Peter's Basilica loomed in the distance, casting a shadow that seemed to stretch far beyond its architectural enormity. As she approached the imposing structure, its centuries-old stones whispered secrets that resonated with the history of a faith that had weathered countless storms. Sarah's journey had been paved with a profound commitment to her beliefs, a desire to serve a higher purpose. Yet, as she crossed the threshold into the sacred city, an unspoken unease settled within her. The ornate artwork adorning the walls seemed to watch her every move, and the echoes of footsteps reverberated as if carrying whispers from the past. Her living quarters, a modest room within the convent adjacent to the basilica, became both sanctuary and prison. The cold, barren walls seemed to absorb the warmth of her devotion, leaving behind a stark void. The city outside embraced a chilling silence, broken only by the distant tolling of church bells. As Sarah immersed herself in her duties, she found solace in the rituals and prayers that echoed through the hallowed halls. Yet, an unsettling aura lingered, casting a shadow over her newfound purpose. Whispers of ancient tales circulated among the clergy, tales of a darkness that slumbered beneath the holy city, a malevolence that sought to test the very foundations of faith. One evening, as Sarah knelt in prayer within the dimly lit chapel, a flicker of movement caught the corner of her eye. Turning slowly, she glimpsed a shadowy figure disappearing into the labyrinthine corridors beyond. Unease gnawed at her, and a chill ran down her spine. The figure had been cloaked in darkness, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread. As the days passed, Sarah's nights became plagued by restless dreams and ethereal whispers that danced at the edges of her consciousness. The city, once a symbol of divine grace, now harbored secrets that clawed at the edges of her perception. Questions echoed in her mind, challenging the very foundation of her faith. Little did Sarah know that her journey had just begun, and the darkness she sensed was merely the prelude to a malevolent conspiracy that sought to bring forth an ancient evil, an evil that had slept beneath the city of Rome for centuries, waiting for the moment when the faithful would question and the shadows would rise. Days turned to weeks, and Sarah's unease festered into a gnawing paranoia that gripped her heart. The corridors of the Vatican, once filled with the echoes of reverence, now whispered with a palpable tension. Her encounters with the mysterious figure became more frequent, always leaving her breathless and trembling in its wake. One evening, guided by an inexplicable compulsion, Sarah found herself descending into the crypts beneath the basilica. The air grew heavy with a suffocating stillness, and the flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the ancient stone walls. As she ventured deeper, a faint chanting reached her ears, a dissonant melody that resonated with an eerie familiarity. Around a corner, she stumbled upon a clandestine gathering of hooded figures. Their voices merged into an unsettling chorus, punctuated by a guttural language that sent shivers through her core. In the center of the assembly, a darkened altar bore symbols that seemed to writhe with an otherworldly malevolence. Unable to tear her gaze away, Sarah witnessed the figures performing a ritual that defied the sanctity of the holy grounds. An ancient tome, bound in tattered leather, was opened, its pages filled with forbidden knowledge. As the chanting reached a crescendo, a shadowy form began to materialize on the altar, drawing its essence from the sinister incantations. Fear clamped around Sarah's throat, rendering her motionless. The dark figure turned, piercing her with eyes that gleamed with malevolent intelligence. A voice, both ancient and seductive, echoed in her mind, revealing a truth that shattered the foundations of her faith. "You have been chosen, Sarah," the voice whispered, as the hooded congregation turned towards her, their eyes reflecting the same malevolent glow. In a desperate attempt to escape the impending darkness, Sarah fled through the crypts, guided only by the flickering candlelight. The labyrinthine passages seemed to shift and contort, disorienting her senses. The chanting pursued her like a relentless specter, echoing through the stone corridors. Emerging into the cold night air, Sarah raced through the deserted streets of Rome, her breath catching in terrified gasps. She knew she couldn't face this evil alone, and her only hope lay in seeking aid from those within the church who had not succumbed to the shadows. Determined, Sarah sought out Father Alessandro, a trusted confidant and mentor. As she poured out the harrowing details of the ritual and the ominous voice that had spoken to her, Father Alessandro's eyes darkened with a grave understanding. "What you have witnessed, Sarah, is a force older than time itself," he explained, his voice heavy with the weight of ancient knowledge. "A cult, hidden within the very heart of our faith, seeks to awaken an entity that predates the teachings of the Church. They believe it will grant them unimaginable power, but its awakening threatens the fabric of our reality." Together, they delved into the forbidden archives of the Vatican, uncovering forgotten prophecies that hinted at the birth of an evil incarnate. The shadows that clung to the city's history began to unravel, revealing a clandestine struggle that had spanned centuries. Armed with newfound insight, Sarah and Father Alessandro confronted the infiltrated clergy, determined to thwart the cult's insidious plans. The Vatican, once a bastion of divine protection, now became the battleground for a spiritual war that transcended the boundaries of faith. In a climactic confrontation within the basilica's hallowed halls, the cult's malevolent leader invoked the ancient entity, channeling its dark power. The air crackled with ethereal energy as the shadows seemed to coalesce into a grotesque form that loomed over the assembly. Yet, as the entity threatened to breach the veil between worlds, Sarah's unwavering faith and Father Alessandro's resilience became a beacon of light that repelled the encroaching darkness. With a collective effort, they recited sacred incantations, weaving a protective barrier that countered the cult's unholy rites. In a blinding burst of ethereal energy, the ancient entity recoiled, its influence waning. The cultists, driven to madness by the failed ritual, were cast into disarray. The sacred halls, once tainted by malevolence, were purged of the looming shadow. As dawn broke over Rome, Sarah stood before the basilica, her eyes reflecting the weariness of a soul tested by the forces of darkness. The city, though scarred by the recent spiritual conflict, began to heal, and the echoes of the ancient conspiracy faded into whispers carried away by the winds of redemption. The young woman, once a servant of faith, emerged from the crucible of darkness with a newfound strength. The shadows had been vanquished, but the scars of the unearthly ordeal would forever mark her journey, a testament to the fragility and resilience of the human spirit when confronted by the birth of evil incarnate.